This is 55 TV, and we're with Platon, who's come over from New York for this show with the Sunday Times magazine. Your contract to the New Yorker, that's an incredible thing to be, and your work is quite unique on what you're shooting, the highest and the lowest of society. Tell me a bit about things for you at the moment.
Well, we're living in the most extraordinary times.
Sure.
It's pretty clear that the whole notion of leadership and power needs to be readdressed. I've found myself very privileged to photographed probably now about 130 or 140 world leaders, many of whom, like this man, have fallen from grace. I'm also now turning my lens onto the people who have been robbed of power, people who have shown great courage in the face of oppression, people like Aung San Suu Kyi, people like the people of the Egyptian Revolution. I built a studio last year in the middle of the revolution on Tahrir Square and invited everybody to sit for me. I've just got back from Russia, photographing the emergence of civil society, especially since 20 years of the Soviet Union collapse and Putin's re-election. I've worked with Putin, I've worked with Medvedev, but now I'm working with the people who are sort of struggling for a sense of equality and dignity in their lives. So these are the key themes that are driving our times. It's what is power, what is fair, what is just, what's right and what's wrong. And I think our leaders have been focused more on authority and power and control, and that classic word stability that they use all the time. But they're not really using their ethics, their sense of compassion. And the people are speaking. And when people are hurting, they're a very dangerous movement. And they will bring down the power if they have to get the life that they so deserve. So we're witnessing this incredible seismic shift of power right now. It's not just the Arab Spring, it's Occupy movement, it's everywhere around the world. You know, we've seen Berlusconi go, we've seen Putin. Whoever would imagine that Putin would be at least threatened? Not to mention what's going on in Syria right now and in many Arab nations. So these are crazy times, and all I ever wanted to do was to be part of the times, to connect with them. And through this magazine, which has an incredible historic legacy, I find myself connected to the times. So I'm very humbled by that, very privileged, and now we mustn't be retrospective. We must look forward and see what can we do to really continue this incredible connection with the times we're living in and help people understand it, get perspective on it.
Sure. How is it for you personally being in the company of such greats, whether we class them as good or bad? I mean, you have to separate yourself from this, don't you? How is it for you emotionally being in their presence for a short period of time, or in certain countries that are real threatened districts?
Well, I mean, when Gaddafi sat for me, it was the worst moment in history to sit for me. It was backstage at the General Assembly in the United Nations in New York, and I was given unprecedented access to the action. I'm the only civilian who's ever allowed to go up to any world leader and say, "Hi, how you doing? My name's Platon. Will you sit for me?" So I was backstage at the GA, surrounded by actually the White House entourage. Obama was making his first address as President of the United States, and those were the days when he was still a political messiah. Backstage there was Rahm Emanuel, Axel Rod and Hillary Clinton. There were the sniffer dogs, the White House guys, there was his medic team, and then even the guy with the codes in the briefcase. Everybody was there. Suddenly there was this crowd swell coming towards us in a confined space of about 150 people. In the middle was Gaddafi marching in slow motion defiance, surrounded by female bodyguards dressed head to foot in military clothing. He marched right up to me and gestured as if to say, I will sit for my first and last portrait on American soil, but I will do it under the nose of the White House. So there was this sort of performance of defiance that permeated my picture. What you actually see here is him posing not just for me, but he's posing for the White House, because the whole White House team was watching us while I was doing this picture. I mean, this is the only time, to my knowledge, where you've had an accidental clash of two power entourages that don't officially get on. And it was my fault that it happened, because I was the genesis. So it was an extraordinary moment. And sometimes by trying to reflect the times you're living in, you get caught up in the action yourself. I mean, power is a bit like a virus. If you spend enough time around it, it sort of gets under your skin. But it's only a perception. I believe that power is not real. You don't actually ever own it. You just borrow it.
As we see with many of the leaders these days, it's changed incredibly. I could speak to you for hours, actually, so we must rendezvous at another time when you're next in London, and let's do a piece with you on a wider spread of your catalogue of work. Yeah, it's great to meet you. Yeah, this is 55 TV.